Netanyahu is speaking right now about basically announcing the deal with Hezbollah. So we do have a ceasefire with Hezbollah. This is official. This is after 14 months after Hezbollah has attacked Israel. There is finally a deal. So we'll talk about some of the specifics of the deal. We'll talk about many aspects of it. I think there's much to talk about. Joining me today is Michael and Alex. Thank you guys for joining me today. Welcome to the reality show. And let me start with you, Michael. 14 months. Do we finally have peace in the north?
Well, first of all, I'm at least what I read about it, it wasn't a deal with Hezbollah. It's the deal with the Lebanese, I think. I don't believe Hezbollah is even mentioned specifically, but I don't know the Hebrew or Arabic versions of this. Whether we have peace or not, remains to be seen. I believe it's a 2-month hiatus in the fighting. I personally think, for 12 out of those 14 months, Israel didn't really respond to what was going in the north, except by evacuating all of its villages in the north and having those people displaced across Israel, including some actually in our building here in Tel Aviv. Really a pretty pathetic, I think, handling of the situation in the north. And then 2 months ago, Israel started to go after Hezbollah. And ironically, I think one of the most serious attacks on the Hezbollah strongholds, which are in the Beirut area, were literally an hour ago. And I think if Israel had had that kind of attack from the get-go, this war would have been over a long time ago. But those are my initial thoughts.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say, because yeah, I think that if you've gotten this far, then why not destroy all of Hezbollah? But then I also do understand that in order to do that, then the IDF would have to conquer all of Lebanon, right? It's not just conquering South Lebanon. They'd have to conquer all of Lebanon and also, have like an occupation there for maybe like another 10 years, which I don't want, because it was such a disaster last time. And if there is a 60-day hiatus, and if as the IDSF is reporting, the IDF retains the right to respond with throughout South Lebanon. Actually, it's not even going to be retreating, and they're giving 60 days to dismantle Hezbollah. Then let the Lebanese army and let at the same time the Americans as well, who they have a separate agreement with us. Let them deal with it for 60 days. Let's not let's not risk any more IDF soldiers. But at the same time as well, I say let's finish it. But and also you really would have to conquer all of Lebanon.
Yeah, we'll talk about the maybe the specific points and how it differs from the let's say the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. And what you mentioned, Alex, is something I've talked about at the end of the daily objective, because you have to think what was the stated goal by Netanyahu, by Israel from the start. It was about returning the civilians to the north. It was never about destroying Hezbollah. Now that or sort of returning people home, but also sort of securing it. So IDF soldiers, IDF army has pretty much reached the Litani River. And as you said, the only way to go now is more north into, this is not just sort of like territory that is believed to be controlled by Hezbollah. You would go full on into Lebanon. And, on the daily objective, some people in the chat were talking about how Israel was forced into this deal by Biden, by threatening, that he would not veto UN Security Council resolution. And I want to talk a little bit about that because, I think, that sort of presumes that Israel wants to go full in because, something to realize is that Lebanon has been complicit with Hezbollah. It involves Hezbollah in the government. It has allowed Hezbollah to exist in the south for decades. It hasn't abided by the UN Security Council resolution. So yeah, and there is so much pushback against Israel. I mean, this is Americans and French cannot wait to announce this. Like they were pushing for it so hard. So again, it's sort of like, yeah, Israel pretty much has almost no way to go unless they would have the actual will to, get fully involved. But Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I don't know that we have to eradicate all of Hezbollah. I agree with Alex. I personally, maybe I'm stronger in the sense that I don't understand for a minute why Israel would stop now. Also, the timing of this 60 days, which puts us into the Trump regime, with a regime that is clearly very pro-Israel. I mean, the people Trump has put around him to deal with the Middle East are incredibly pro-Israel, more so than even the first term Trump had. And I think that the new American regime that's coming in is fed up with this terrorism crap. And they understand that these terrorists don't want to stop with Israel. That's the tip of the iceberg. I don't understand really what the point of this is. I think we could bomb the heck out of Hezbollah north of Litani River. I believe we've already bombed several times north of the Litani River. We've certainly bombed the Syria to Lebanon borders where weapons are coming in. We've bombed in Syria. We will have to bomb in Iraq, most likely, because they've got a lot of Iranian militias in Iraq. So if this is a Biden strong arm move, because somehow a UN resolution against Israel following the ICC resolution essentially against Israel, I just don't understand what Israel is doing here. Now, it may be that it's probably more than the UN resolution, because I don't think Israel takes the UN very seriously anymore. It must be a weapons issue. I just don't see any strong arm tactic the U.S. could put on regarding the UN. The UN has lost all credibility. But I don't agree with this. I mean, if the U.S. says we're not giving you any more weapons until Trump comes in, then I understand the 60-day time period completely. But if this were just about the UN, I don't think it would be strong arming enough.
Alex?
Yeah, no, but this is not going to have any effect on Syria, and we do retain freedom of operation as well. And also, we've been bombing the whole time in Syria, the whole time. And I think that this was a really important defeat to Hezbollah because remember, they got involved to help Gaza out, right? To try to take some of the pressure off. And remember what we thought we were facing. And I think that also was a little bit, now I think that is also really causing a lot of people in the defense establishment to kind of double guess. But we were believing that a confrontation with Hezbollah, we were actually going to have all of our strategic sites completely destroyed. I mean, we thought we were going to be under 6,000 rockets a day. That was the estimates. That's what they were preparing the people for. They made everybody in the country who handles chemicals dissolve the chemicals. They thought that it was going to get really out of control. They were preparing for 3 days without electricity. Every citizen was preparing for 3 days without electricity. So, that's what we were expecting, right? And now you have successfully with this agreement, now all of a sudden Hezbollah are so pathetic and weak, and they've been so totally defeated that now they're like, you're not leaving Gaza, okay, fine, doesn't matter, we'll still stop. It is very, very pathetic, and I don't think that anybody could possibly deny that strategic defeat for them. And yeah, and I also do agree with Michael. I think that we're definitely lacking in some of our precision munitions. But I said, listen, let's keep going. I mean, we're getting a lot of explosives from Hezbollah. They might not be as, they might not be as good, they might not be as accurate, but well, so what are you going to do, right? Continue. Um, but also, if you start talking about the IDF rolling up in Beirut, that's a whole other type of, that's a whole other type of danger. And then you're talking about the IDF actually being responsible for instilling a military occupation in Lebanon, right? I mean, it's unbearable, right? The idea of it would just be totally unbearable. Um, and out of every, window, there could have potentially been a sniper. I mean, it's like the scariest situation possible. Um, but I think that the specific terms of the agreement have been, that that Israel does retain freedom of operation, so they're totally able to act, um, whether via the air, or using the forces. But the forces really are, I mean, they're doing a little bit of fighting, but mainly they're just there to actually try to clear the villages, right? Clear the villages of people. Um, they are doing fighting, of course, but it's not like, we thought that it was going to be like facing Hezbollah, like up close and personal, like, no, really, really great fighters that they are. No, they were actually, most of them were too frightened to come out and fight. Which kind of was the power of the beeper incidents, that most of them were too frightened to come out. Some of them have never come out of the tunnels, right? Um, there are still tunnels that they have not managed to, they won't go down, and they also haven't managed to see anybody coming out. So they've, you know, been in there for maybe a year, just, inside of tunnels. And also the IDF have been operating quite a few times, north of the Litani as well. We had some commando units that went almost, basically to the very, very tip of Lebanon. I think it's also, that's to kind of to prove, like, actually we can do this. It's very easy for us to do this. It's not even a problem. And this is going to be enormously humiliating for Hezbollah. But then you also have to think about, okay, now they're thinking about, okay, what's going to be the situation, in 4 months' time, right? Or in 3 months' time, whenever. Because we're going to have to attack Iran, right? That's the reason that we haven't attacked Iran, is because of Hezbollah, because we've understood that they're on our border. And so maybe that's part of the deal as well, right? I really honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know. That's what General Amir Avivi thinks, but he's retired. And also, I think also the top brass of the IDF, they actually don't really appear to know. They don't appear to have much connection, much kind of, I don't think even they really know what's going to be going on in 2 months. If they can, convince the Americans to attack Iran, to attack all of the Iranian nuclear sites, with Israel, which would be like a 3-day campaign, 4-day campaign, if the Americans help. If not, it's us, and it's months of constant barrages. And we're going to eat a lot of ballistic missiles. But without having Hezbollah, it's not like it's existential war.
Yeah, I mean, for the last year and more that we've talked about this, sometimes, people try to bring up sort of like, or, similar to when it comes to this Hezbollah, like, oh, the IDF soldiers are tired, you just want them to, go like a machine at all times. And there is this, well, oftentimes when we talk about, the morality, like what is the right thing to do. Like once you are in a war, the proper thing to do is completely destroy your enemy, or not the proper thing to do. That's the only thing you can do. I mean, there is no middle ground between, sort of destroying your enemy and sort of like living them alive. And when it comes to sort of the practical problems, and as you mentioned before, let's say the beeper attack, I was also talking about how, a war with Hezbollah sounded scary. I mean, I knew it was the right thing to do. In a sense, it was the only thing you could do. They are on your border. They are threatening you. The reason why we are sort of scared of it is because of how much threat they possess. But, after what Israel was able to do, we were really amazed to the amount that, it wasn't really that impractical to do. And that's what I think is really disappointing when it comes to this is, when it came to sort of operations in Gaza, it was always the moral issue. It was never about, it was almost, at least I cannot think of a single scenario when it was like, oh, Israel has to do this, but doesn't have the soldiers or doesn't have the practical aspects of like conducting the operation. It was always about, no, international community disagrees. You cannot go into Rafah. You cannot go. You cannot completely take over Gaza. You have to establish humanitarian corridors. It was always these sort of like moral issues. But when it comes to Lebanon, it really does seem like this is like one time when it is like a practical issue, as you've said. This like a complete destruction of Hamas to a large extent would require a complete occupation of Lebanon to ensure they are completely gone. And they have no support from the West. I mean, the West has been pushing for the end of the for ceasefire in Hezbollah. I mean, pretty much right after Israel has actually responded. Um Michael,
Yeah,
what do
well,
you?
it's
Oh,
pathetic.
you're muted. Michael, you're muted.
I'm not sure exactly what the concluding moves were when the U.S. mostly finished off ISIS, and obviously little pieces of ISIS, just like little pieces of cancer, are still there. But for most practical purposes, ISIS is neutralized now. Now, just like cancer, every now and then you got to come back and have intensive radiation therapy and knock it out again because it will grow, just like every cancer does. But we didn't go in there with troops. We didn't go in there with a lot of troops to go in there. We bombed the heck out of ISIS. And remember that this was not under Obama, because Obama didn't let us bomb ISIS indiscriminately. It made sure we respected all the possible civilians who would be nearby. And we fought a war the way we fought Vietnam and Korea, which was to lose the war, which we were losing. And then Trump came in and took off the gloves, and we bombed the heck out of ISIS and eliminated it. And there were lots of innocent people killed. And I would argue probably fewer were killed over the short time that Trump came in to finish the war than would have been if Obama had been able to continue it for another 4 years, if he were allowed to. So I don't know that we would need to go in to all of Lebanon. I think the kind of operation they did tonight, and you guys are probably following it. I mean, if you look at what happens in Dania, I don't know how to say it exactly, but in
Dahia.
Dania, in southeastern, I think, or southwestern Beirut, which is a Hezbollah stronghold. It is a remarkable surgical set of 30 or 40 buildings were just eradicated. They're gone in the period of about an hour. 20 buildings were taken out in a period of minutes. And this is because the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, has complete air superiority and pretty much can do whatever it wants, with no harm, by the way, to the IDF itself, and there haven't been yet. So I do think we Israel could have continued this, and I would not want to put troops anymore. And my son was there, and he's not there anymore. Thankfully, he's done, but he was very involved, and it is a tough, bad situation, no question about it. But I wouldn't put troops into the country. I agree with that completely. But I would bomb the heck out of them. And this, by the way, the Lebanon army, which is now saying they can produce, somehow they can manage to produce 5,000 soldiers almost immediately once this ceasefire is signed, that they can produce 5,000 soldiers to come in and take over the area where Hezbollah was. Where are those 5,000 soldiers? What were they doing before? Well, they sure as heck weren't replacing Hezbollah anywhere in the country before. And we all know this is the beginning of the crock of baloney that comes with these kinds of deals. When you have a fake state which doesn't have the military or the leadership ability to really eradicate Hezbollah itself, that is Lebanon, you have a bunch of puppets like Biden and Macron who are behind this for reasons none of us really understand, pretending that Lebanon is a successful country, and if it weren't for this little cancer growing in it, it would be okay. And it's just not true. And we aren't done the job. And I think what's going to happen is, as you all said, the people from the north in Israel are not going to be able to move back in, and most of them are not until the 60 days is up and see if it holds. But most of them are not going to move back in because they're very afraid that this is going to be broken by Hezbollah. Nobody believes Lebanon can handle this. Nobody believes the world is going to let Israel really police this. Although it's absurd because Israel should just do it. And we're going to have to wait for Trump to come in. And I think Israel's going to have to go in and mop up this mess after it gets out of hand again.
Alex?
Yeah, so I mean, the Americans didn't really destroy ISIS. It really was the Russians, and definitely the Americans helped quite a bit, but it was, specifically it was the Russians, because Russians are willing to just totally, they don't care who you are, right? They're just going to do whatever. So the problem is I don't know how you don't do a full occupation of the whole of Lebanon. I mean, I don't know how you would do it. I really, and I haven't yet heard of anybody who has offered a solution that is actually feasible, that we could, like, Amir Avivi, who I trust, definitely, General Amir Avivi, I definitely trust. And he is hawkish, very hawkish. And he has said himself, you can't do it. You just can't do it unless are you willing to occupy all of Lebanon and stay there for years and years and years? It's because that really is kind of what it takes. Because they're very in the north of Lebanon. They're also very, very,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're very, very strong there as well. I don't know. I don't know how you would do it. But
Alex, Russia never occupied the territories that ISIS was in, did they? They just bombed. You're right. They were more willing to bomb. But I can tell you, on our side in America, when Trump came in, we were bombing the heck out of them. We had a couple of our, generals. Very different than when Obama was in charge. It's the same doctrine. I mean, I take your point. Look, if you really wanted to eradicate it, you would certainly have to go in. I agree with that. But if you want to stem it, if you want to make it a chronic condition instead of an eradication, I think there's a happy medium. And I don't know that we killed as many people as we could have killed, that is terrorists, before
hardly
this.
killed any.
The timing of this thing is just stinks of political baloney and frankly, to me, a bribery case of weapons being withheld again in the last part of Biden's term.
Or slow, or what they say slow walked, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously that it's not good for Bibi politically for him to be engaging in this, right? Because I think the whole country is really, they're feeling what I feel, right? They're feeling what everybody feels. They want to battle to complete victory. So I think that he's under an enormous amount of pressure, right, to do this, to capitulate like this. And maybe the sort of they are talking about the additional American deal that they have on the side. So maybe the deal is that they're going to attack Iran, right? Maybe that's the deal. And maybe as as part of the American deal, I mean, I don't even know, because people who are using who are threatening you with not delivering arms shipments that are promised to Israel as part of other agreements, right? That are part of other agreements. So you're don't agree. We can't get into any more agreements with you guys because you're not good. You're not good on your word. Um, and if the IDF has the ability to see when Hezbollah are building forces, then the Americans have just as good. They knew that they were rebuilding forces. I don't know. I don't know if it will be politically even possible for us to restart the war in 60 days. Maybe it will. Maybe we'll just wait for one bullet to be fired, and then all of a sudden, ceasefire is broken. Um, if you're not retreating, you're not retreating. Then you are just, you're staying there. You're staying there, but you're not good. You're going to agree to stop the aerial campaign. But I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
I
mean,
really.
yeah. You have to think about most of the world is compromising. And you said about not a single bullet fired. Well, when it comes to Gaza, you had to wait until October 7, until something big like that were to happen for Israel to actually have let's say something to an appropriate response. And as you said to Lebanon, I mean many things can happen between now and then, but will those things be enough to basically for Israel to say no, we just this deal is just not working. We have to restart it. You might make a case that with Trump in office, it's going to be a bit easier for Israel to restart something like that. But even Trump has been talking about the peace in the north. He said that he wants it to be done before he even comes into office, and he prides himself in being the peacemaker and sort of there's no wars under me. So as a because you have to imagine when this runs out, that's going to be Trump's first week in office. Will he want to be this one of the first things that happens, that this deal or this deal doesn't go through and Israel restarts the conflict? Because now everything will be in a sense under him. So just quickly, because yeah, I have a one of the lines from Netanyahu. So he had his speech, his pre-recorded speech. So I'll just read this. This is from Ynet. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he was committed to the security of the North and its residents, and the war would not end until they can return home safely. Speaking in a pre-recorded video address, Netanyahu said Hezbollah was taken back decades. I will bring the ceasefire to the cabinet. Its duration depends on Hezbollah's compliance, adding that any violation will be met by an IDF strike. His violations? Oh, he include not only opening fire but also attempts to rearm. I think the violations also include not only opening fire but also attempts to rearm. Netanyahu said the ceasefire was necessary so that Israel could focus on the Iranian threat because the U.S. administration withheld arms that is about to change. Okay, so he actually claimed that he does claim that the United States is withholding arms as a part of this deal. And I like the focus on Iran. Michael, what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's this is the primary tumor. This is the main part of the infection that's festering in the entire Middle East and frankly the world. Don't forget, Iran is behind the Houthis who are disrupting global shipping, and the U.S. and the U.S. and the West have done a heck of a lot not about that. I mean, it's really pathetic actually, across the board. What a terrible job. So if we can get back to Iran, great. I think you and Alex made a good point earlier that Hezbollah was trumped up to be this. We were all scared to death here in Israel. We thought it was going to be missiles raining down every day, even in Tel Aviv, even in central Israel, and it turned out not to be, especially after the remarkable, sort of pre-war moves that were made with the pagers and walkie-talkies and so on. But Iran turns out to be also a little bit of a paper tiger. I mean, they're clearly more dangerous, but we were led to believe that Iran's 1 million person army, or whatever the number is, and their munitions, and amazing. Israel did one small attack on Iran, which is really was neither here nor there. It was Joe Biden's take the win. A defense is a good offense, which is ridiculous, in April. And then they did a real response to the October 1st attack that Iran sent with the ballistic missiles. And that real response lasted somewhere between 3 and 5 hours in Iranian airspace. And as far as we can all tell, completely eviscerated Tehran, the capital of Iran's entire anti-aircraft system. And it may have taken out an Iranian nuclear research facility as well that we know of. That's been leaked, or assuming it's real. But the point is that the Israeli Air Force did one run against Iran, and that was unattacked. They were unattacked. They lost no aircraft. 130 aircraft or so were involved. They lost no pilots. They had no equipment malfunctions, and they completely eviscerated Tehran's ability to protect itself. Now, in a normal war, if this were Russia fighting this war, Russia would then send in a second group of attack aircraft, and Tehran would be flattened. That's how you fight a war to win a war. That is clearly not how Biden is allowing Israel to fight this war. But the point is, all the news media and all the experts and all these talking heads told us how dangerous Iran was. And yet one run by the IDF took out the capital's protection. It is unbelievable. And it's exactly what happens when you have a bully on the playground and you kick them in the groin and they're out of the game. And everybody spent 2 years worrying about the bully, and it turns out, and one little girl came in and kicked him. And that we have to get back to that in this world. We have to stand up for what's right, and we have to go after them with the best technology and best militaries we have. And I think we're going to find that most of these places fall apart.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, Russia was going around for ages telling everybody that they're the second biggest army in the world, the second best army in the world. They're not even the second best army in Ukraine. Like, really, it's really quite horrendous. But then that also does get everybody really thinking, why were they telling us, the Americans were really telling us, why were they telling us that Hezbollah was so strong, that they were so strong that they were going to maybe, flatten the whole country? And, why were they really trying to tell us they're too strong? There's capabilities that you don't know, because then there were also Israelis that also said, there were also generals who said, no, I'm really not that concerned about them. I really don't. I mean, I'm concerned about them. It's going to be really not fun for anybody who's living in Nahariya. It's really not going to be very fun for anybody who's living in Haifa. But, are they going to be able to attack all of our strategic sites, the whole of the country, and then conquer it? No, I don't think so. And that also gets you really thinking about things, is that, well, was this as a way to try to deter Israel from taking action against Hezbollah, right? Because also, maybe saying to Bibi, do you want to end up like Ehud Olmert? He's a total laughingstock. He's he's remembered with such bitterness, and people remember him with such bitterness in their heart, because he was the one that was like, go for it in 2006 after 3 soldiers were kidnapped. That just, from a political perspective, managed the war in a very, very, bad way. And I don't know. I really is that also, you know, is that also kind of part of it? That we were obviously very, very heavily embedded within Hezbollah's senior commands, because that's why so many things happened. We obviously had a lot of informants in Hezbollah. Probably, I would imagine that there's some people who are reportedly dead who are not dead, or living a life under a different name with a different face or something. Because there was obviously somebody, I would say, in the top brass of Hezbollah who was working for Israel, who was able to get them things delivered, that was able to report on intelligence that nobody else could have known. And the same thing goes in Iran, right? I'm told we're deeply embedded as well. Or not even I'm told, it was Ahmadinejad revealed that one as well. He said that he had a separate division for trying to find Mossad moles, and they were all Mossad. So it sounds about right. It sounds about right that we obviously have informants at the highest levels in Hezbollah, probably in the government. But I don't know. I mean, if they are serious about attacking to defeat them, attacking with the goal to destroy the target when they see forces that are being built up, and they actually do it, then okay, it will be just exactly like we have in Syria. We have in Syria all the time, constantly, nonstop, constantly attacking Syria for years now. We've been constantly attacking 24/7, right? With whenever we see there's a buildup of forces, we go and we destroy them, because we have freedom of operation. But if that's actually going to be the case, that if we see it, we're going to do something about it, then it is a situation that you can live with. But the problem with what happened in Gaza, we saw them and we said, no, they're just having a bit of fun. Or you have, for a lot of people said they're preparing for something that is big. They're preparing for something that's not like what we've seen before. And it's always like, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. And then also, you're not in a place for 17 years and you don't have informants anymore, right? So we didn't have informants who were embedded, deep in the infantry brigades of Hamas, because we were laughing at them. We were saying Hamas are a joke. They're a joke. They're a little ragtag team of nobodies, and they are, obviously. But when you have a strategic concept, which is that they're not going to attack, right? Because life is too good for them, right? Life is too good for them. They're getting what they want. Then it doesn't matter. The evidence can be a signed note from Sinwar. I'm thinking of attacking on the 7th of October, and the army will refuse to believe it, right? If you've made a decision in your mind, right, at the highest level, at the brass, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. And they were hiding information from Bibi, right? They were hiding information from Bibi that they felt was politically disadvantageous, right? If they're being serious, there's the people in the north have, I understand them.
Yeah, I mean, evasion is at the root of most of the evil. Basically, just refusing to look at reality and see what has been happening in Gaza, see what Hezbollah is doing. We have a super chat from Jonathan, thank you so much, and also a super chat from BC that was on the Daily Objective right after we finished. He said UK said it will arrest Netanyahu, and I just quickly looked it up, and it looks like so. David Lammy has, I think he's the whatever foreign minister type of thing they have in UK. David Lammy has said that the United Kingdom will 100% cooperate with the International Criminal Court. So Well, that's nice of them. I was praising them, well, praising them as much as you can, a few days back about saying, at least they were on fence. They didn't know if they wanted to comply or if they wanted to, stay truthful. But it's nice of them to be fully bought in. Um,
Mhm.
all right, let's talk a little bit. We have about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Let's talk about some of the parts of the deal. So, I think we've mentioned most of these, so maybe I'll just run out, and if you guys want to comment more on specific one. So as we said, there's going to be the 60 days. That's basically the sort of the implementation period. During that time, IDF is supposed to slowly pull out. Hezbollah is supposed to go north of the Litani River, and Lebanese forces, as well as I believe UNIFIL forces, are also going to be involved. Should basically retake the south or replace the withdrawing Israeli troops. What else is there? Uh, as we've said, the 60 days period, basically, if Israel sees that something is not being complied with, they might go back in. There's going to be a U.S.-led international enforcement committee established, drawing on the UN Security Council Resolution 1701. All right, what do you guys think, Michael?
Well, we've had, it's almost been 20 years with the UN Security Resolution Council, and it's clear that all of the countries involved, especially France and to some extent the US, and frankly, many of the countries that are the most anti-Israel, whose people are involved in UNIFIL, have not only violated their agreement to enforce 1701, but have actually aided and abetted Hezbollah. So it wasn't even passive incompetence. It was active malfeasance. I mean, to put it nicely, right? They participated in the attempted mass murder of Jews by helping Hezbollah arm civilian houses and then send missiles into Israel. And a big mistake that gets made, of course, in the stupid, and I'm saying stupid Western world, because I've said this before on the show, we equate an inability to kill people with it's okay if you fail at attempted murder. It's really bad if you actually murder people. But if you just send in a few missiles and they don't happen to kill anything more than a few cows, or you send in 20 missiles and only one person gets hurt, it's sort of okay. That's the way the West is viewing what happens every day in Israel. It's just normal. What do you expect from terrorists? That's what they do. They send missiles, and most of them don't hit anyway. So what are you people from Israel complaining about? And that's the fundamental problem. Remember that the U.S. is going to put an oversight group under the Biden regime. It's the Biden State Department that has failed miserably up to this point for 14 months to even get the American hostages back, never mind the Israeli hostages. There are 8 American or 7 American hostages in Gaza, and the Biden administration has done zero militarily to get them back. And they're going to be the ones populating this oversight committee. The French are going to participate. Macron is the last person we should be trusting on the Israeli side. It's a joke. It's a travesty. Now, Israel will have spy UAVs and planes and satellites and so on. They're going to be watching really carefully. I think everybody here in Israel expects that Hezbollah will certainly violate this. They can't help themselves. Iran will continue to send missile weapons in through the various routes, and Israel will have to go in. But let's stop pretending that an international force has any ability to do anything, especially under a UN resolution or the guidance of it that failed so miserably.
Alex?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. Yeah, I agree. I just don't know. I just don't know if maybe also I think that I think that the Lebanese people have to get rid of Hezbollah. Okay, it has to be them, because they're gonna have to be the ones that are going to be rebuilding the country. If Israel did go in and do 2 years of a military occupation and get rid of Hezbollah as a military entity, then then they would be responsible for all manner of stuff, but they wouldn't be able to decide on the future for the Lebanese people. I think that it might be a very good idea for the Lebanese people to actually get rid of Hezbollah right now, when they can, right? I mean, they're saying that the agreement is with Lebanon, it's not with Hezbollah, right? But it's being made at the behest of Iran, who've been desperate for them to come and stop, because that's their strategic equity, that's their equity, right? Lebanon is Hezbollah is Iran's equity, and Iran views them like America would view like a foreign missile, a foreign army base, right? So they don't want too many of their equities to be destroyed, right? Obviously now Hamas is going to be destroyed, and at the end, probably the Shia militias are going to be destroyed, but that's probably a whole other campaign, again, probably of months. You forget as well that this campaign's been going on for months, right? This aerial campaign has been going on for months. So it's just been going on, boom, 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 boom. It takes a long time to actually destroy something. Takes a very long time. It really does take, years. That's why they said it will take months to destroy all of the nuclear facilities in Iran, right? And I imagine that it would take us a couple of years to destroy all of Hezbollah, right? All of Hezbollah's, sites, and they'll be all in a list, right? Right now, I'm sure they've got down to, site number 478, right? That's the way it works. That the pilot will get in his thing, he will put in okay, I'm doing 478 today, and I'm doing 400, and then after that I'll be back, and then I'm gonna give the plane to Jimmy, and Jimmy will come, Jimmy will do da 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 da. That's the way they're doing it, right? That's because there have been people from a military perspective, marking down all of the sites. Okay, that's what they do. Not beyond just what you do from a perspective of trying to understand what they're doing, right? You're also wanting to understand patterns of I actually have been enjoying the civilian think tanks that have been on the Lebanese border, that have been watching Hezbollah for years, and they've been reporting as well on everything that they're seeing with their eyes and their binoculars, and even okay, I'm seeing this guy's walking around, and now today they've got tents, right? What does that mean? Okay, this one brought 2 sandwiches. Why did he bring 2 sandwiches? I wonder why he could have brought 2 sandwiches. Are they, and even things like that allow you to understand if they're preparing, right? Preparing for something. Like, you would have had to prepare for months and months in advance, bringing a little bit of extra food every single day to tunnels, okay, in order for you to have a build up of food in your military bases, right, in your tunnels. And they wouldn't have been able to do that right under the nose of the IDF, right? But so they were doing things like that, and then you had the civilian lookout reporting on that. Does the IDF even know that today they bought 4 cans of beans? They only ever buy 2. What is going on? I mean, it really was as good as that, and I loved hearing from them. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens with this. I think it would be cathartic. I think it would be good for the Lebanese people to get rid of Hezbollah themselves, and also the Palestinians. You guys hate them so much, right? So just ask them to stop doing what they're doing, make them citizens, and that's it. Because Lebanon doesn't have to be the way it is, right? It's really a failed state on so many various levels. Build something back up. Get rid of these people who have brought you nothing but pain. People also say, oh, but they also provide so many, like, humanitarian services. Yeah, because they're trying to buy them off. They're trying to buy you off. You can't forcefully occupy the whole of the southern area of a country and expect people not to kind of put up any degree of resistance to that. And people are also saying that that there's not going to be an IDF like security zone, as an IDF managed security zone, and they're getting very, very angry about that. But the thing is, as well, is that we saw them building their houses and bringing their families to live in them, right? I mean, we saw the Radwan forces, the Hezbollah special forces. We saw them because we know who they are. We saw them building their houses and getting their wives and their sons to come and live with them, with their cruise missiles, right? Yeah, we saw them and we're like, oh, I wonder why they're doing that. Isn't there supposed to be like isn't it supposed to be like a sterile zone? Oh, are we going to do anything about it? Well, we'll have to see. Even Gallant, I remember seeing him a year and a half ago, arguing at the guy. So Hezbollah also started putting tents up everywhere, right? And one of them was on Mount Dov, that they say is their mountain, but it's not their mountain. It's in the Golan Heights, which has nothing to do with with Hezbollah. It's like they always say, so it's our mountain, and we're putting a tent up now. And Gallant is going, you need to take that tent down. You need to take that tent down. Or now I'm going to bomb. It's like, so just bomb it. It's a tent. Just bomb it. Who gives it? Just bomb it. Civilians could have just shot it with a scope. It was very easy. I mean, it would have been. But then again, I guess I don't know if any civilians should be doing that. But it was like that easy to do something about it. I don't know.
We have by the way, just quickly on that idea of Hezbollah provide social services. It's important to remember that's like a Nazi talking point. Remember that when they talk about like, oh, they made trains run on time, and they built highways. It's important, like when you are the governing part of some area, yes, you are responsible for everything, including that is let's say healthcare services or something like that. Similar to how Hamas is in control of the healthcare services in Gaza. That doesn't mean that once Hamas is gone, there's no healthcare in Gaza because the Hamas is no longer there. It's what every government does, and well, it shouldn't do because it should be left to the private market. But those are the services that any government that is controlling some part automatically has to take care of, or has to have some system for. We have a super chat from Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you so much. And a super chat from Lori Cheto. Thank you so much. He says, this is a 4 sandwich situation.
It's true.
So we just have a last couple of minutes. So Michael, any last thoughts, and where can people find you? Hey, you're muted again. You're muted.
That I've heard this ridiculous argument that Hezbollah provides some good things. That's like saying to someone, you're going to spend 90% of your money that was supposed to be for humanitarian reasons on missiles and weapons and paying your fighters and training them. And then you're going to give us 10% of the money, all of which, again, was earmarked for humanitarian reasons. But you're going to be kind enough to give us 10% of it to build a school, which, by the way, we're going to teach you how to become terrorists so you can join Hezbollah. I mean, only an intellectual could come up with such an argument. You listen to this, folks. If you can imagine how much money was available and went into arming Hezbollah and could have been used to rebuild Lebanon into what it used to be, the so-called, Beirut used to be called the Paris of the Middle East, rebuilding Lebanon into a real country and giving its people a future. but 90% of it went to, or 95%, whatever the number is. And this ridiculous idea that, same thing with UNRWA. I mean, if UNRWA goes, Gaza will fall apart. I mean, of course it won't. People will figure out a way, and there'll be a lot of people that do well from that. It's really incredible. We have to stop accepting that you can have murderers and terrorists doing a little bit good, and that somehow justifies their existence. It's a crazy argument. Michael Kaufman, 2Fs and Kaufman, LinkedIn.
Alex, any last thoughts? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I would definitely say let's see. By the way, I just want to also be totally clear about this. The Israeli right are losing they're losing their shit. I know I can swear on YouTube, right? But they're losing it. A lot of people are, and also the people in the north are still refusing to come home. The mayors in the north are refusing to allow people to come back home. And by the way, also that's political as well, right? They're saying if we allow people to come back home, then they're not going to handle the threats. They're not actually, the IDF need to handle this. And yeah, so I would recommend Alma Center, who they're the sandwich watching think tank in the north that look with civilian, they're a civilian think tank that live at the north of Israel. I also would recommend the IDSF. I'm interested to hear their immediate feelings on this, as well as I also recommend Regavim, because they also have some very interesting. They're also a think tank. There's some very interesting reporting that's coming out about the Palestinian police.
You can find me on my YouTube channel. Then links to everything are gonna be in the description. We have Atlas Shrugged Book Club coming up in just about a minute or so. It's for YouTube members. A link for that is in the chat, and also our website members who can join on the Zoom link. Thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you everybody for watching, and bye-bye.